Okay. Let me just, my presentation doesn't go to the next level. However, welcome. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. We are in the middle, more lunchtime. So thank you for joining today. Our post-forum sessions, or one of our post-forum sessions of And Ahead. One career is not enough. We are a network and platform for women and individuals who took a career break and wants to come back to the workforce. And we help and support with coaching, with networking, with a methodology called the 3 C's, clarify, create, and connect. So to help individuals to go back to the workforce and with confidence and with a position and an environment which is also future oriented. So today we have a very interesting topic, women, career and finance. We had on our forum in May, the first time, the topic of finance and why is it important, especially also for our group, to look into finance with a career break, and also look into finance in terms of getting financial independence. And so we got a lot of positive feedback from that, and thought we will dig deeper today and invited 4 great experts in that field. And we also have today Simone Bea, who is going to moderate the session. She herself is also an expert in the finance industry, always has been in the asset management, fund management area, and also restarted her career after a break, also with 2 children now grown up. And so she recently also joined a family office, Vermögensverwaltung, here in Germany. But before I give the word to Simone, I would like to also say a few words to And Ahead and our team. We are a team, international team. We have today Carol Yeo here, who is my co-founder. We also have Eugenio Grappa, who is based in the US, is our CTO. We have Priyanka Sate, who is our digital marketing expert. She's living in India and in Pune, and joined us today. We also have Margit in Switzerland and Paula in Belgium. And also today we have Naris, who joined us with a sales background and is helping us to also grow And Ahead to the next further steps. So I have the pleasure to talk about our team, international team, and that's why we also feel that we are here based, Carol and I, in Frankfurt, and the community is sometimes German, but also a lot international. Expert partners, but also we went to Asia in our last forum, so we expanded to the home country of Carol, and got a very, very good response there as well. So what is next is we are doing the Women Career Finance today. We are having another session in October for you, and as well our next forum in November 12th and 19th. And also are going to have a career fair for Singaporeans in Germany next Friday. and also were featured in Handelsblatt very recently about and ahead, and also, you know, education and why is it important to also consider the break, the career break for upskilling, reskilling, and being then future ready, going back into the workforce. And yeah, so now let's go into the women, career and finance topic a bit deeper. And yeah, Simone, I'm happy to have you here today as an expert in this field. And please,
thank you. Thanks,
the
Britta.
floor is yours.
I'm really glad to be here with all these wonderful women that are, well, most of them perhaps know them, but let's have give a quick CV on all of them. And on the organizational front, we will have, if anybody has questions, please put them in the chat, and Britta will read them after the session. So that would be the best, so that we can stay in the flow. That's very important. So we start with our 4 panelists. It's Anne, Barbara, Rukayat, and Claudia. Anne Connelly, let's start with Anne. She's the founder of Her Money and Fondsfrauen. She's a very seasoned executive in the asset management industry and started in '89 in Boston at Pioneer Investments. Not all of you perhaps know Pioneer, it's now called Amundi. Later worked for Morningstar, and in 2017, she founded Her Money and Fondsfrauen, that most of you will certainly know. Barbara, she's also a very long time already in the business, and she studied economics as I did, and worked for several banks in the private and commercial banking. Already in '97, she found her consulting business for women and finance, and in 2018, her Finanzberatung Barbara Rojan and Kolleginnen had her 25th anniversary. She also wrote several books on women and finance, and led about 10,000 conversations about financial planning, pensions, and yes, how to invest money. Then we have Claudia Bacon. She works at the moment for Fidelity. She's MD for personal investing and wealth management services. In that function, she was responsible for a study on gender pension gap with the University of Mannheim. And I guess a lot of the questions, the things we're going to talk about will be in relation to that. Before that, she worked for BNP Paribas and Commerzbank before that. Then we have Rukayat Modupe Kolavole. She's the founder of PaceUp Invest, and that's a platform for women to share, support, and build knowledge about their finances. And she's also a participant of 100 Women in Finance in Germany committee. She's also a book author, CFA holder, and has an executive MBA from ESSEC and Mannheim. So we have a lot of great women here with a lot of expertise, and let's not waste too much time. The first question would be for Anne and Claudia. And as a first question, what are your thoughts on gender pay gap and the implication it comes with it? Please, Anne, and then Claudia.
Oh, all right. Well, hello, welcome everybody. Nice. Thanks for having me, Britta, and you guys all. Well, you know, what are the implications of the gender pay gap? First, you need to know that there is one. Right? Most of us don't get into that too detailed. We go into a job. Most of us just simply accept the job. We don't negotiate. And only later on, we discover that there is a gender pay gap, that my colleague may not be paid the same as I. So I think my first thing would be to say, be mindful when you enter a job, you know, benchmark what your pay should be, and don't simply go in and take the first offer that's given to you just because you're so delighted that they took you. So I think being mindful of the gender pay gap and what are the implications, I think are pretty obvious in my opinion. if you don't make as much as you could, or through career, you don't earn as much in your retirement phase. I think that Claudia can probably speak to more on that. I just thought I'd lead into that with my statement.
Thank you, Anne. So maybe, continuing on what you said, thanks first of all for having me. Actually, at Fidelity, we've conducted a study 2 years ago around the gender pension gap, and this connects pretty well to what you said, Anne. So you start with a lower salary, probably because you didn't negotiate that much, and then this drives you directly into a gap you will also feel when you're retired. So the study we've been conducting was 1.8 million data of German employers, so it was quite a large set, done by the University of Mannheim together with the University of Tilburg. And what we really saw was, especially, and I think this is at the heart of the topic today here, when you have a break in your career, if you pause for whatever reasons, this might be you have your first child or the second, or do care for somebody, then this would amplify the gap. So especially at the age of 35, we saw that the gap in the pension for women increases. So in total, we could say that there's a gap, just the gender one, between men and women in the pension from around 140 euro. So it's important that first you're aware that there's a pay gap in your salary. This is what Anne said. And secondly, if you do not care about that gap, it will lead to a second gap and increase the pension gap you will have later on. So yeah, be aware, negotiate. And I think this is a good forum we have today to increase the awareness upon that and make sure that we help you making your first steps.
I should add to that, Claudia, that maybe not everybody knows, but the gender pay gap in Germany is, statistically speaking, is currently at 18%. It's down from 21%, and the main reason that the pay gap decreased is because there was an increase in the Mindestlohn. So there is a minimum wage that has risen, and that applies to a lot of women. So it's not because there was so much done by the industry or by us ourselves, but it's just a structural thing. And also we've done some research that just recently came out with that we've conducted with KPMG on behalf of the Fondsfrauen, where we looked at our industry to see what the gender pay gap is within the financial industry. And none of the firms really was willing to share what the pay gap is within the financial services industry. But what we did get information on is on the bonus gap. And the bonus gap in the industry is between men and women is about 30%. So that's quite a bit of money that if you missing out on your performance and you don't have an adequate bonus, then it's even getting accelerates and gets worse down the road. Somebody has
could some please mute themselves who are not talking? Sorry, there was some background noise. Sorry, Anne, we couldn't hear you.
Yeah, the background noise, I can still hear it, but it's not me.
Could you please mute yourself?
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
just to recap what I said, we conducted some research with our network Fondsfrauen and just recently, and you can read about it on our homepage. But the gender pay gap within the industry, none of them were really able or willing to share what the gender pay gap is, which was quite industry, because we asked all the participants in the German and the Swiss fund industry. But we did get data on the bonus part, and basically about 30% pay gap is the bonus gap. So that's a lot of money you're talking about. So if you're interested, have a look at the research yourself. But just be mindful of that and benchmark yourself and make sure you get adequately paid in comparison to your peers. Do not assume that that's automatically takes place.
Thank you. And so the next question would be for Barbara and Ruqayyat. It's on how can one achieve a substantial pension despite a career break? Please go ahead, Barbara first.
So I was talking to so many women in my life, so I would like to give some practical advices. I would like to mention 4 points. Do not reduce your pension contributions during your parental year or part-time job, or when you are here with a man with an expat, you don't earn anything, but pay contribution to your pension. Pay these expenses out of the joint household account. That's very important. Second, build up your own private and flexible retirement account in addition to the state and company pension. This account should allow special payments. Start investing regularly on an early stage instead of saving your money in a deposit account. Third, do not interrupt your professional activity for longer than necessary. This also applies to part-time work. Fourth and last, create financial concepts together with your partner and husband and agree together on solutions for your finances. That was it, yeah.
Short and sweet.
Very short and sweet.
From talking to so many women.
Barbara's practically covered most of the things, but what the most important thing is financial preparation for a career break. It's really, really important. And one thing that I would like to stress is one should not really consider a career break unless your finances are robust, ideally, potentially to be kind of debt-free. And if you have a mortgage, you must be certain that you have means to be able to repay the mortgage. And save as much as possible to the run up to your break as well. And if you have any investments, talk to your financial advisor to see the potential of you to be able to potentially continue to contribute into your pension. So like Barbara mentioned, having a private pension is very, very important as well, because we cannot really rely on the state. And sometimes the employer contribution as well. Some do contribute and not all contribute. So it's really, really important to have a private pension. And work out the likely cost of your duration of your break as well, and see if the savings that you have is going to cover them, because you have to think about during the break, how will you be able to survive? And then afterwards you think about, okay, once I know I have this enough savings, what can I put into my pension so that I don't have the potential shortfall is not huge. And lastly, what I would say is most of the time, we need to actually seek professional help when we're going for a career break to make sure that we have all our finances in place and to know when to start contributing again and how to contribute during the break. Because Barbara has said everything, so this is just an addition to how to actually achieve a meaningful pension during a career break. So make sure we actually plan ahead before we take a break, basically.
Thank you. The third question will be for Anne and Barbara. I would be interested to hear from your personal experience on how to handle the money discussion. Maybe you remember a situation where you had to discuss finances with a partner or someone from your family and can describe how to approach this discussion.
Well, I'd be happy to share my personal experience plus the observations we've had within the network, of her money. Basically, in my personal situation, there really was never much of an issue because my then husband and I, we started out both having very little. And so that's a natural evolvement, as you progress in your career and you have higher income. We always had a joint discussion about that. And between the two of us, we never really had an issue. And I must say that my ex-husband wasn't really so financially driven. We always were after, we wanted to do well, but it wasn't about, higher, more, whatever. So I think maybe my experience is a bit unique. We grew as a couple and we grew financially and we never really had any arguments. We disagreed on certain investments, right? Because he was a typical male in that sense, and that if he didn't went and invested, he wanted to gamble. And so we made sure we separated his gambling ideas, and he had his play money, and I had my money. Okay. And I think one practical tip is when you own your own money, which I can encourage all of you to do, it gives you as a woman also your own freedom to do as you wish. And with that, I don't mean simply traveling the world, but it's on a day-to-day level. If you go out and you buy a facial cream and you want to buy that €100 facial cream, which I do, And then your husband says to you, what the heck? Why do you pay so much money? And then I used to say to him, look, we agree to disagree. End of discussion, right? You have your thing, I have my thing. End of story. So earn your own money. You can, you can pay your way. You can pay the expensive nail polish and do whatever you want to do. But in the joint finances, my advice would be, have a discussion about it and maybe have a little bit of play money if you have different investment ideas. Now, in terms of what other people do that I hear about in my community, and Barbara can share this a lot more than I could, is it's a very delicate discussion for most people. And I'm very surprised also to hear that for the young generation, it continues to be a very, very challenging and a very emotional debate. So, we suggest that you may approach it and have more of like a date, have a financial date to kind of take a bit of steam out of the discussion. I think that may be a good way, and maybe establish some rules. And what we've learned from, there's a blogger, there's a vivid blogger scene in the meantime on that topic, that these bloggers share with us that once they determine, they have this discussion, find a rule for themselves. For example, once a month, they sit down, they talk about their money, then it seems to ease and take the stress out of the situation. So that's a point you need to get to kind of make this manageable. But I would like to turn over to Barbara, because she has got a lot more experience than I do. So these are my 5 cents.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that you talk to your partner about money, and you do it, please, before you're getting married to him. If this is stress theme for you, please do not marry this man, because this is very important that you can talk about money. And I have 2 daughters of 30, 34 and 36, and a son of 32. And these 2 daughters, which are educated at home, they really had problems when they got to know to their partner to talk about money. Now they can, because I forced them to talk about it. So it's very important to talk about money and to maintain these conversation on a regular basis, once a month or every 3 months. It must be like planning your holidays. It must be the same. So I would like to give you an example from my experience. For example, a married couple, both academics, they earned the same money before they got their first child. The wife is now on parental leave. She is very frustrated because of her lower income, before she earned a lot of money, more and more, which she spends completely for the family, while her husband still receives his former income and has money to invest. So my solution for this couple would be create a joint household account for common expenses. Define the monthly budget. What do you need every month on common expenses? And both partners calculate their respective annual incomes, including all special payments. And these 2 incomes must be put into proportion. According to this proportion, each partner pays his share in the common account. For example, she gets 20,000 euro as parental leave, and he earns 80,000 euro netto. So they have together 100,000 euro. She earns 1/5 of she gets 1/5 of the income, and he gets 4/5 of the income. The common expenses are 5,000 euro. So she would put 1/5 on the common account. That means 1,000 euro, and he puts 4/5 to the common account. That means 4,000 euro. And with the rest of the money, everybody can do what he wants. So she can buy shoes or facial cream, and he can buy a new bike or some other sport dresses. Yeah. This is very important to talk about this, and everybody has to pay on the common account, but in addition to the income. And if possible, also balance the women's low contributions to the pension plan from this common account. Summing up, sharing life with someone also means sharing responsibility for income, investment, and retirement planning. I think this is very important. Everybody has to know this. Every woman has to know this.
Thank you. So the 4th question is for Claudia and Rukayat. It's a question on finance again. So after you've made some money, how should you invest the money for the maximum benefit? Or speaking plainly, when investing, what is trash and what is treasure? Please, Claudia and Rukayat.
So thank you. So first of all, I think the most important thing is that you start. So you spend your money on shoes. It's a stereotype, I know, but if you spend your money on shoes, you invest already in something. So do invest in yourself while investing the money on an account. Where to start? So this is pretty simple. You may have an idea of something what you like. There's an industry which you might find exciting. There are trends you are aware, like digitization or healthcare or anything. So there are topics in the world which are of interest. And then it's just the next step to say, okay, what kind of investment should I take? And there's a nice and tiny tool I always love to recommend for especially younger starters. It's a saving plan. Yeah, so you just start, save your money on a monthly base, let's say 25 euro or 50 or something in a fund or an ETF. So something where you feel this covers what your personal fields of interest are, where you feel confident that this investment could be a good solution. What you need to do is dare to do so, because actually women are better in investing than men. There are a lot of studies around on the globe showing that we are better. Why is that? It's because we do tend to be a bit more hesitant, not to jump too early to a conclusion. So when the market may go up or down, where the hunter in our husbands or friends may say, oh, we sell or we buy, women tend to take their time and think about it a bit longer, do tend to take less risks, which is also good. So there's a more diverse and long-term view, which helps us. And we need to take this one, bring it to action. So after the session today, start thinking about it. Do you have an investment account? If no, then use it. There is a lot of offering. It's Fidelity. There are so many banks also in the world where you can go to, where you open your investment account and you just start with a saving plan. It's a tiny step, but when you start getting familiar with it, it helps you. And secondly, you do talk a lot to your friends about stuff. Talk about your money. Talk to those you trust about money. You will see this is so important and it will help you. There's always that one friend who is more analytic than myself or who is more interested in economics or whatever. Seek for those persons in your personal network and start familiarizing yourself with investing, with the benefit of using your friendship network. Yeah, with that, I hand over because otherwise I'm talking too long, sorry.
I mean, you've kind of echoed a lot of it. And I think most of the time, as we are kind of I would say risk averse, more like risk aware, and we don't like to take a lot of risk, we tend to then invest in lots of cash securities, which sometimes it can kind of be detrimental because there's a study by BCG that identified that women actually prefer cash, and at the end of the day, they end up losing out on higher yielding opportunities. And this goes into like slower growing assets, and women can then experience a wealth deficit during their retirement years. So as my colleague mentioned, it's important to start investing gradually, no matter how small it is. So save and invest is really, really important. And how can we sieve out the trash from the treasure? So one thing I always advise my clients whenever they come to me is to look at intentional investing. And I always kind of preach this: be intentional towards why you're investing. So meaning understanding your why. So why are you investing? What are your goals? How much do you want to invest? By knowing your why about what you're investing in, you're actually putting yourself in the driver's seat and setting up yourself to be more confident about your financial future. So you actually know what to do for your future and invest properly and have an idea of what your financial goals will be for the future. And then the next aspect is the what. So what are you actually investing in, right? This I call your social impact, because every euro that you invest in actually supports something. So you need to understand what you're investing in and what impact it potentially has. So this will kind of sieve out the trash from the treasure. For example, you can decide, okay, I want to invest based on ESG criteria, so environmental, social, and governance. So, or you might not, but just have an idea of what you're investing into and also who you're investing with. So most of the time, this is those that can afford financial advisors. So if you have some money and you feel like you have someone that you need to be able to put all your portfolio together, it's very important to actually work with someone that you trust, as someone that has your best interest at heart and who is independent, meaning they have unbiased view and they always give you something suitable to yourself, and those that have fiduciary responsibility. So they take your best interests at heart. So I think with all this and with what Claudia has mentioned as well, it's very important to also be intentional, because when you're intentional, you tend to continue to do it. It becomes a habit and you continue to do it. And down the line, we'll see all these other gaps kind of narrowing as well when it comes to pension and wage and salary gap as well. So that's my take on it.
Thanks. So we already coming to the last question. You all behaved so well that we're really good in relation to timing. The next final question is a little more open. It's just for everybody to please give helpful advice how to get started with investing own money, or how to deal with acceptance issues at work. So I would say we just do Anna, Barbara, Claudia, and then Rukayat.
Sure, I think mine would be rather simple, and for some really hard to do, is to just do it. And I think it's important that you invest in yourself and into your knowledge. That's why I founded Her Money, but it's a German-speaking platform. But I think here you find other offers like Rukat. I think you're English-speaking, obviously. And I think, get a little bit into it, but just go for it. And Barbara and Claudia already said, look, start with 25 euros into a savings plan, into a fund or an ETF. There's not much harm you can do with 25 euros. Let's be honest. If you go out to an Italian restaurant tonight, 25 bucks will barely buy you a pizza and a glass of wine. All right. So don't worry, just get started, open up an account and get your feet wet, learn a bit the language. There's lots of tools out there. There's Facebook groups, they're in German, they're in English, to find your way and find your buddy. So just go for it.
Great. Next one.
Yeah, I would like to encourage all of you to take the issue in your own hands. Don't argue with your partner about money, but talk about finances in a factual and non-emotional way. That's very important. Define your individual goals at eye level and find joint solutions. Second, start taking care of your money and finances right away, and don't postpone the topic until the day when you might have time for it. Take responsibility for yourself and your money, and do not transfer this responsibility to any other person, to your husband, to your brother, to your father. Do it by your own. Third, become independent and free also in financial matters. Therefore, look positively in your own financial future and get a grip on it.
So I would pick up a point from Barbara, which is maybe worth in mentioning a bit more. So it's about the point negotiating. From my perspective, observation, like 20 years in leadership, I've always seen that women do miss a lot of opportunities to just negotiate and be aware. So if you are just stereotype, but there's so much truth in that. So if you are leaving to give birth to your child and you come back, you've earned a lot of skills in that time, but typically you don't tell them. But this is so important. You are highly professional in organization. You are highly professional to keep a timing, because if your child is on the streets waiting for you, you will be on time, right? So just having these examples, there's so much you could use for your career to negotiate better when you're returning from a break. This would be one. But this confidence in negotiation could be also part of what you do with your partner, right? So you are working. It's maybe not on a payroll or somebody, but you are working when you are at home. Don't be the one who just accepts that this is not worth any money. This is not true. So start negotiating, start being aware that every time you invest in something, if it's your child, somebody you take care of, or your work, is worth some money. And yeah, start talking about that with your partner, start being aware of it, and be aware of your skills and use them in negotiating better salaries or a better share with your husband.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. I think ladies have mentioned everything, but what I would like to add is to look at your finances the way you look at your mind and your body, because we've seen like the biggest causes of stress is usually money, and this impacts our mind and it ultimately impacts our body. So the advice that I would do is, that I would give is to make sure, look after your mind, body, and finance. So that this is why I always say, look after it the same equal weight, because once one is missing, it affects the other. So it's very, very important, in addition to all what the other ladies have mentioned.
Thank you. And so I also, because I'm also in the business, perhaps there's also another way to look after your finance and do it like we all did, study economics and go into finance yourself. And then you have your finances well in front of you all the time, and you know how to deal with it. And also there are a lot of well-paid jobs, and some of the jobs are also very suitable. In theory, all jobs would be suitable for women, but it's much easier in, for example, fund management or working as an analyst, because you have your own profit, you are your own profit center, or you control your own performance, and you're not so much involved in politics. That's unfortunately still big part of a day, a work day is politics, and then you don't have to get too involved in that. That's it from my side, and I think I speak for everybody. There will be questions, I will hand over to Britta, but if anybody has any further questions, I think you all know us on LinkedIn. You can always contact us. I think that's true for all of you, right? If anybody has questions. And thanks, I hand over to Britta now. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Simone, for the moderation, and thanks everyone so far for also giving your expertise and tips and advice on this very important topic, which we heard you can't, start early enough. And Simone and I just also talked about it. Even at school, this should be a topic where, it is already taught, because then it doesn't have to do anything with gender, because their boys and girls are next to each other. It will be just a topic. So I was lucky that my daughter had economics in her A-levels right now. So she was taught 3 years in this field. And I'm really glad that she did get that information early on and will continue. So we can't start early enough, but we are today also in a lucky situation, because Simone moderated so clearly and strictly that we have really time now to take on all the questions which came. And I think there are really very interesting ones. So let me take the first one from Sabina. Do you want to come in, or should I do the questions? It's up to you. Sabina, do you want to come on stage, or would you like to me to do it?
Just go ahead.
Okay, happy to. So Sabine is asking, what can be done on the bonus gap? At the financial industry is mainly man-driven. I see getting a higher bonus for women would be challenging. Who wants to take that question?
I could start.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, good. So first of all, it's about negotiating and the way you do. So from my personal experience as a leader, a long time in financial industry and also in other industries, I can say men are asking each year. So, and it's not about being greedy or asking for too much, but it's kind of a natural conversation, natural habit. So start to talk with your manager on a regular basis about your salary and also about the bonus. Secondly, if you're aware that there's a gap or you should have more, there are a lot of opportunities to compare, or you just feel it should be more. go for it, build your story, say what you delivered, what are your skills, your expertise you're going to bring in, and start negotiating. It's an individual thing. There won't be a solution for all, but this is just my view on it.
I think it's a very valid point that you keep doing it regularly. And there is also an expectation by the majority of the male bosses that you do that. So make it a habit to negotiate. I think also important is when you enter the discussion, aside from being prepared, we tend to be over prepared anyway, learn when to say nothing. I think it can be very uncomfortable situation. You know, we have advised people that coach on that. They will tell you, you know, practice that beforehand. But I think it's very important that you have your facts, you go in, you have your discussion, and then you shut up. We tend to over talk like I do now. Right. So shut up and wait for the reaction. I think that's important. And that's often an uncomfortable situation for the guy you're dealing with, the person you're negotiating with, but learn to deal with it. You know, make your point and a story, and also set your price. Think about what is your worth, and have some benchmarks for yourselves in mind. That will help you to steer the discussion.
Okay. Next question, thank you so much, is how about real estate as retirement saving, from one of our participants here?
Yeah, obviously good investment, right? If you can afford it. But I'll let Rukat say something.
And it depends on the country where you live. Now you have to take the price in relation to the income you get from this real estate. I think it's in Germany at the moment, probably it's a bit, it's not very cheap. In Spain, it's cheaper. So you have to look at how much money you can earn with this.
Yeah, basically, yeah, and like you mentioned, you have to look at it's country specific. And I think one also has to look at, okay, what are the advantages as well when it comes to property investing? So you don't have to wait until your retirement age before you can access the rent from your investment, and you can take the rent from there and then invest it into your own private pension as well. And you can also, like you mentioned, you can also earn money in several different ways, like leasing. You can do short lets and whatnot. Again, depends on the country specific. And the beauty of it is the value of the property. Value of real estate is constantly increasing. Obviously, we have to take into consideration the demographics as well and other aspects that goes into real estate. So there are pros and cons to having real estate as part of retirement planning. And we have to understand as well that real estate is very illiquid. So when we're talking about the physical structure, not the equity aspect of real estate, because we have that. So we have to look at the balance between what are the advantages of having property investments as part of retirement and what are the disadvantages. But again, it's all country specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. There is a follow-up question even from another participant regarding real estate, is how would you recommend doing a house purchase with your partner if you can contribute with very different amounts? How should the ownership look like in those cases? Who feels? Barbara, do you want to?
It depends. It depends. And I have always a lot of situations where the parents give money to their daughter for investing in this house. I always they should never send the money to the common account. That's very important, because if they send the money to the common account, it's a gift for the husband. If she has half of the money and he has nothing, then she should buy 3/4, because half of it she will pay, and the other half they will pay. They will pay together. So it depends a bit, but I think the one who is investing, who gets a gift from her parents, he should have a bigger part on the real estate, on the house. I think and that's another answer to the former question. It's always very important that you calculate, that you don't buy. Many people in Germany at the moment, they don't know anything about real estate, and they just buy an apartment without thinking, without calculating. And this is very, very important too. So I think it depends. It depends where the money comes from, who can pay the credit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a very complex question as well. At the end, I think, and real estate is a long-term and illiquid investment, as Rukayat said. So I think that's something one has to dig deeper a bit.
Yeah,
but
you have to think before you buy.
Yeah. We got another question here. First of all, thanks for all the good points so far. Can you recommend from the panel on platforms to use for investment and tracking of investment goals? Rukayat, do you want to elaborate on that? And
Yeah.
probably Claudia.
So yeah, there are platforms. So you do have what we call robo-advisors, where you can go in and put in your investment goals. You do a bit of risk assessments as well, and how much your liquidity as well. And then it kind of gives you, okay, an idea of where to invest into and the different asset classes. So for example, there is Quirion, there's Scalable Capital. There are quite a few of them in Germany. So, but then you have to think that, okay, these are actually robo-advisors. And most of the time, it's more of the portfolio that might be kind of recommended to you might not be unique to you. So that's why I try a lot not to recommend too much of robo-advisors sometimes, unless there is a hybrid model to it. So there is also potentially a financial advisor or wealth manager working alongside with yourself, because you have to look at your yourself in a holistic basis. And in as much as possible, where we have what we call the risk ability and risk willingness, there's also what we call the behavioral capacity, because there is a difference between you having a plan and actually sticking to that plan. Because what if the plan, you get a headache anytime you want to do something, right? And also you don't follow through. So it's more about working with a hybrid kind of platform as well, to make sure, in as much as they're taking care of the, how do I say, the objective aspects of it, they're also helping you in a form of personalized manner to take care of the emotions that comes with investing. So there are lots of platforms, but do make sure that you look into those that actually have the hybrid model of it to help you along the way. Yeah, that's the advice I would give when it comes to planning and investment.
Thank you. Claudia, do you want to add to that?
Sure, it was a pleasure. So echoing a bit what Rukayat said, I think, for example, Fidelity will also have a robo-advisor. If you may call it like this, Fidelity was expert and not making product promotion right now, but there's a questionnaire when you walk through what kind of investment you're going to do, what kind of risk appetite you have, what kind of risk you can take, what's your amount. And my point would be is use this as your journey, as part of your journey, to make yourself aware about the different angles you can look on your investments. So whether you use ours or somebody else's, I think this is always worth time well invested. And secondly, there are a lot of webinars around, if that's from Fidelity or other players, but there's a lot where you can just get familiar with the products, with ideas, maybe get inspired by a different view, a different angle. So yeah, this is what I would add to Rukayat. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. And then there was another question to the issue trash and treasure investment. So what is your opinion about cryptocurrency investment? Richard would love to hear some advice. And did you also do some podcasts on cryptocurrency already with her money? Or do you have an opinion on that?
I tend to have an opinion on many things, but as you know, well, yes, actually, I have done a podcast with Katharina Gera, who is the leading female figure here in Germany for that topic. It's quite interesting to learn more about it. But overall, for somebody who's just getting into the investment schemes, I would not recommend getting into crypto. This is not your first choice. This should, if anything, make up a small portion of, a very, very small portion of your portfolio. portfolio, I think it's an environment that's very much evolving. It's very highly unregulated, very speculative. So I think not worth discussing in this forum, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think that's a very good advice. Thank you, Anne. Does anyone wants to add to that? Otherwise,
I mean, I can add, like Anne said, it's extremely speculative. Don't get into it if you're a beginner, and know that if you put your money into it, have it in the back of your mind that everything might go. However, if you think that you want to start looking into it, there are funds that actually so this is not financial advice, so I'm just mentioning this. So there are funds, for example, there's ARC Investments that actually invest in cryptocurrencies and companies that are brokers for it. So if you don't want to invest in the individual cryptocurrencies, you can look at funds. But again, it's more of like if you're a beginner, just stay away from it because it's not regulated, like Anne mentioned, and it's extremely volatile and very speculative in its nature.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your opinion. I, by the way, love that we are getting questions all over, more and more. And thank you for being so active here in this topic. I'm quite thrilled because that was the purpose of the session, to also, you know, answer your questions and get into a conversation about it. I think we want to encourage everyone to think about finance, where to get the resources, how to do it, to get a bit more confident in that topic. I think that's the overall purpose, and negotiate and ask for more, because if you don't ask, you don't get. That's often the case, and we are, in a lot of cases, a bit too shy. So here's one from Bijal. Thanks. If you are newly entering a job market in a new country, how does one find out salary range information when it's not readily available? So as not to undersell yourself, but market yourself well and not be taken advantage of.
I can add something to that. I think you go to the platforms like Stepstone, Indeed, Gehalt.de. You find pay ranges for the German-speaking market. That would be my advice. And on Fondfrauen.de, on our career website, there's a part also for young professionals who gives you an idea what the pay ranges are. So that would be my advice.
I could add to that. I would also, if you are in conversation already with an employer, ask HR for the range, because they will give you an answer. What is the range the job is in? So then you have at least one idea. Secondly, if you're in conversation with a headhunter helping, then for sure this could be also your address to talk to or to reach out to have at least an indication where you need to look at.
Okay, thank you. So another question is here, are there any frameworks or resources we can use to plan our intentions and investment goals? I think, Rukayat, you said earlier, the why, the what, and how is important. So probably you have a bit of a guidance here.
So I'm not sure about resources basically, but what I usually do with my clients is to kind of just sit down with them to understand their financial goals. And some have specific goals, some just have a return requirement, depending on what they're looking for. And then we look at the risk assessment, incorporating the behavioral finance into it. And then we look at what their constraints are. So these are things that you can also do by yourself if that this is what you're looking at. So you look at the constraints, so meaning the time horizon. So what exactly is your time horizon? How long is it? Are there going to be, is it going to be a single stage? Meaning, is it just yourself planning for retirement, or do you have kids? Are you planning for their education and when they're going to go to school? So that's we call like multi-stage time horizon. Then you have to think about your liquidity as well, meaning, are you going to be needing money very soon, or are you going to be needing the money from your portfolio and how often? So that helps you with the planning as well and what type of investment you should be looking at. And other aspects is also the tax. So what is your tax bracket and how can you make sure you invest in tax efficient products and vehicles? So that's another aspect. And then we look at obviously the regulatory and the legal aspect of certain investment, because certain investments might not be suitable to you. So for example, you might not look at maybe a private equity investing because you don't have the large assets or it is not allowed as a retail investors. So these are different aspects of things when we look at the why, first of all, and then the what is not the products, when we combine all this together, and then the who we are actually talking to make sure you have a trusting relationship if you want to have a financial advisor or not. But if you want to do it on yourself, then you can do that. And we tend at PayStop Invest, we have a specific format that we give to our clients as well if they want to go away and do that by themselves. So you can contact me afterwards and I'll be able to help you to put all this together. And if you want to do it by yourself, so that is fine equally. Yeah.
Perhaps
Yeah,
I can also jump in.
I just thought about it. You would be a good person.
I think in the end, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And, so just open an account with an online broker, and the younger you are, the more you want to be in equities. And because you never know what's going to happen in the future, you just do a very broad-based approach, and you look for low cost with a product. So an ETF of a big issuer is fine. And I think just get familiar with it all and start with a little amount. And then when you feel better, you can like invest either more or look for other products. But as Anne and Barbara also said, just get started. And if it's 25 euros a month and you buy a broad-based ETF on world equities, that's fine. And then later on, you get more familiar, you add something, you think, oh, tech is great, or I want to be in that and that. But yeah, just do it.
I think the most important thing is that you start, as you said, and that you start with an easy product, that you don't buy the fund clean energy, which was the best one in the last year. Just start with an MSCI World or MSCI Europe or MSCI Emerging Markets. Just keep it easy. And don't buy the funds which were recommended by men. Yeah, the best one of the year 2020. Or don't start with special themes. Just keep it simple. Just keep it simple and start with simple, which you really understand. Don't invest in funds you do not understand, which are the funds where people talk about it. Always say, yeah, just to keep it simple. And the best thing is you do rebalancing every once a year. At the end of the year, do a rebalancing of your portfolio, and then you are on a very good way. It's easy. It's very easy.
If I may, I would just add 2 sentences to give a bit more urgency to the point. We've done a recent study around the impact of COVID, so the pandemic impact to the savings. And what we saw was that 22% of women have less savings now due to the pandemic than before. So there is more urgency to start. And yeah, just echoing what you were saying, just start now. I think this is the most important point. Don't postpone.
Okay, thank you, Claudia. I think what we also can probably to not only sum it up, but to use the intelligence we have here in this room and also culturally. I would also like to know how you think the cultural background and how you grow up did have an influence and has an influence, and how can we learn from those different perspectives if it comes to finance. Does anyone want to give a bit of background, probably, and how did you grow up, or do you think your German plus also US mindset did help you to get into that a bit more easy than others, or what is your view on that, and how?
Well, just my background is a bit different in that my grandfather used to work at the Sparkasse He was the local hero. So, and my mother worked as an insurance company, so I basically was raised with that in my blood. But that didn't mean I started a career because of that. That had different reasons. I more or less stumbled into it. And one thing I definitely learned how to invest rather than simply save during my time in the US, because I worked at, as you know, at the largest, or one of the oldest American mutual fund companies, Pioneer, now Amundi. And there I really learned the basics of investment and how interesting that is. And my grandfather never taught me that. He was from the Sparkasse. What do you know, right? He was from a different era. So that really helped me. And I learned there the basis of financial planning, which is something I pass on to people today, part of Her Money. And Rukat, I can see we have a similar thinking, right? So that it's more come from the Anglo-Saxon area, where they have a different view and are much more open to investing rather than simply saving.
Yeah, thanks. I think financial education is very important. So, and how you grew up. Barbara, Claudia, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, maybe just, so I didn't have anything in my background of my parents. So the only thing they were really giving me was being confident in whatever I would like to try out. So this was, I made my way myself into the whole topic, and I started with the first money I earned to try out an investment fund, which was kind of exciting at that time and something very special. Yeah, and I just tried out. And if you just start that way, the internet hasn't been what it is today. So at that time, I had to read newspapers and articles. This was really a more painful journey than it is today. So I would like just to encourage you, just be confident and try out.
Okay. Rukayat, one last.
The last one, yeah, so I'm Nigerian by background, I'm also British. I would say my money and investing was from my grandmother, because she was like a community investor. So she used to collect money from other women in the community, and then they would then give it to a particular woman that needed it most, and then she would then pay interest at some point, and they would continue like that. So I learned money, and that piqued my interest into investment banking. And like Anne said, it's more of Anglo-Saxon, so we're more very much investing orientated as well as supposed to saving. So I guess merging my Nigeria background, which is kind of like community investing, with the Western way of investing, actually picked a lot of my interest to try to get more women to start to invest. And when I got to Germany, it was like a huge difference between the UK and Germany and the mindsets of investing. But I'm glad that things are being done, and with other communities like and community as well, in educating and just making sure women know the importance of investing and starting now, which is very, very important. Yeah.
Thank you, Rukayat. And Barbara.
Yeah, I was grown up as the son of my father, so I was talking always to him about stock exchange shares, and that's why I decided to study economics. But about 20 years ago, I founded 5 investment clubs in Stuttgart, and there were women from 20 to 80 years, of the age of 20 and until 80, and a taxi driver and CEO from companies. These people, they all learned how to invest, and they were really interested. So I think education is important, and it's easy for you, but you can learn it. You can learn it. It's no problem to learn it. If you have a good advisor, if you have a good coach, you can learn it, and you should start what I said before.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it to everyone, I would say. I think that's a good claim. Nike would be very pleased with, with us today. Just do it. I think this topic is not rocket science, as you said also, Simone, and we learned that it is also a topic for women. We are, we are more than capable as in digging also deep into that, and we shouldn't be shy, and it will be also an interesting area also career-wise to look into, because if you are into it, then you are not afraid potentially. And start with little steps, start early. I could hear. I also loved Rukayat, the why, the what, and how, where or how.
Ooh.
Who? Sorry, who invest in? Sorry. Simon Sinek is a why, what, and how, but you are the who, the third one. And have it simple and use also the internet, the robots who are out there, all the available information to get into, but also not overcomplicate it, and just start with something where you invest in, for example, an ETF even little amounts sum up over the years. And that's, I think, the most important. I recently heard about a study where also coming to the negotiation point is if we 20% of women don't negotiate at all their salary. And if they would do, then they leave out during the whole of their career up to 600,000 euros. They leave out as an opportunity because they don't negotiate. And I think, Claudia, you said that, men do renegotiate every year. Why shouldn't we? And so thank you so much for all your expertise here, also for the fruitful and active and engaging discussion and questions. And we hope to see you soon to our next session, which will be in October 8th for upskilling and reskilling, and as well our forum. And you can already register for the 12th of November, where we will introduce our full concept. So thanks again, Anne Connolly from Hermione, Barbara Royan, Claudia Backhorn, and Rukayat. It was a pleasure having you, and thank you for the moderation, Simone.
You're welcome. Thanks, bye-bye.
Thanks,
And
bye.
have a good weekend.
Thanks.